The presidency has responded to clamours by some politicians, especially some federal lawmakers and the national chairman of the main opposition party, PDP, asking the president to address the nation. In a statement, the presidency is asking Nigerians not to see this most peculiar of times as one to be politicised or seen as an opportunity to regurgitate grudges against the government or the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. The president is asking all Nigerians to unite to fight this plague, irrespective of religious or ideological affiliation. It went further to state that populist advocacy, such as the one accusing the president of complacency simply because he has not made a television address by ranking members of or our respected parliament, are cheap and sensational. These are not the times for populism and cheap politics. Meanwhile, the national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Uche Secondus, he criticized President Buhari of not doing enough in the face of the coronavirus raging the world. Mr. Secondus says, while we watch and admire leaders rise to the challenge elsewhere, the reverse is the case in our country. Nigerians are yet to hear or see their president rise to the emergency, and those officers on duty have not enjoyed the needed political will. Maybe when it's cuts up with, God forbid, the president in his character would say he is not aware of the virus that was put in bracket. Well, let's veer up to talking about the matter and the way forward ahead of this debate. It's a pandemic and it's raging the world. And these are some of the issues we're going to be talking about now with our guests. I'm being joined by the Deputy National Publicity Secretary, and that is Mr. Adiron Odeyemi. He joins us via Skype from Ibadan, also from our Abuja studios, Mr. Richard Menga, a member of the All Progressives Congress. I'd like to thank you both for joining us at this time. And I'd like to begin with you, Mr. Odeyemi, and that is, do you share the same view with your party, the People's Democratic Party, as to the efforts of the federal government, the presidency, in handling this pandemic in Nigeria?
As a responsible political opposition, we are able to say that we did not see anything on ground typical of what happened worldwide in controlling this virus. All what we have been hearing in Nigeria is about the noise, about education, about information, about the awareness, which up to now, the federal government has claimed to have spent 1.6 billion naira to curtail. We are in Nigeria. We are all civilized. And we wonder what has the federal government put in place to warrant this kind of expenditure. We cannot see anything at all. Like, for example, now, I'm in Ibadan. The governor just declared yesterday that there is not a single case of coronavirus in Oyo State. Likewise, many other states. Yeah, we appreciate it. We have to prevent it. But what has the federal government done to make sure that the prevention is done, other than to advise the citizens that you should wash your hands on a daily basis, use sanitizer and some other things? How that has now become a proactive measure to prevent this virus is what we are querying the presidency for.
Mr. Menga, some states lack personnel protective equipment. Even the leaders of the Senate have talked about the poor facilities of healthcare across the country. You represent, you're a member of the ruling All Progressives Congress. How do you defend this in the light of the pandemic we're facing in the country?
It's quite unfortunate that we try to politicize everything. I think this is something that should not be politicized. The first case of coronavirus that was discovered, I know very well the person was quarantined. And when the subsequent cases were discovered, it was imminent that if measures are not taken, the thing will spread. And the president has come out to say that public schools should be shut down and Nigerians should desist from having unnecessary public gatherings, and people are to take precautionary measures. So I don't know what the PDP is expecting the federal government to do. Is President Buhari to go and be doing these things for people or what? In the way I've seen it, what the federal government has done is not different from what other countries have done.
But
Even
Mr. Menga,
like
other
America,
countries,
Italy,
if I might jump
Russia,
in,
Mr.
Menga, other countries have addressed their nations, their citizens. Other countries have done this. Why do you think the president is yet to address the nation.
But there is a presidential order directing that schools will be shut down, and the president has already given directives. So I don't really understand what you mean by presidential address. There's already an order directing all public schools to be shut down, and that people should avoid unnecessary public gatherings. So I don't know what the PDP is really talking about. I feel the time has come for Nigerians to unite, irrespective of our political persuasions, to make sure that this thing is contained. I see no need bringing politics into this thing that has come. This is a very deadly disease that Nigerians will unite to curb it. I see no reason. To me, the directive that the federal government has given, that public schools should be closed and people should take precautionary measures. I think, to me, I think the federal government has reacted. I don't know what else they're expecting.
Mr. Adeyemi, perhaps you can clarify your point of view on this, especially your party's stance. What indeed you mean? Is it important for the president to address the nation when several measures, restrictions, bans have also been put in place by the federal government?
It shows we are not serious in this country. If the only thing the federal government could do is to give order that all the schools must close and people should avoid their social gathering, we are expecting something that is more cogent and more important, like what is being put into the hospitals, into the clinics as preventive measure. What are the response mechanisms put in place? It's not enough when you say you are quarantine people or people should go for self-quarantization. You know, it starts funny. If the only thing the federal government could claim to lay claim to is that we have ordered schools to close. You don't copy what is being done abroad simply because of coronavirus. You have to repeat the same thing in Nigeria. No, other countries are putting up good measures. They are educating the citizens. In case you realize you are having this kind of a disease or whatever, these are the centers to call. These are the hospitals to visit. Which hospital can anybody visit in Nigeria?
We're going to come back to continue to talk about these issues. Mr. Adeyemi and Mr. Menga will come back on this issue. Still to come also, Governors Okowa and Mr. Tambuwal, they're inspecting COVID-19 isolation centers. We'll bring you more details of that story in a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to the program. But first, to some of your stories in brief. We begin with the federal government ordering all heads of federal tertiary institutions, principals of the 104 unity colleges across the country to shut down. The Minister of Education said in a statement that the decision to shut down the schools is to protect and safeguard lives of students from the virus. Elsewhere, there are new measures by the federal government to ensure security of lives. The president launched a new emergency toll-free number, 112. President Buhari believes the initiative will improve the security of lives in the country. He also launched the Emergency Communication Center. And talking more about the efforts of the federal government to the pandemic, just perhaps a recap of some of the measures the federal government has taken, and that is shutting the Kano, Port Harcourt, Enugu airports to international flights. Aside from that, the CBN cutting interest rates to 5%, the federal government ordering closure of universities, unity schools, travel ban on 13 countries beginning from tomorrow, Saturday, cancelling of visas already issued from high-risk areas starting from Saturday, cancelling visa on arrival. Of course, we have religious leaders who are rising up to the occasion at hand with the national prayers, and indeed talking about gatherings beyond 50 people, cutting on that. And we have several state governments that are also taking measures against the pandemic. We've been discussing this matter with our guest, Mr. Adeyemi Adeyemi, and also who's a member of the PDP, and that is the Publicity Secretary, National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, and also a member of the APC, Mr. Richard Menga. Mr. Menga, I'd like to continue with you, and because it's not just the opposition party that have a thing to say with regards to the federal government's effort. The Labour Union as well, saying that the practice of allowing visitors who are from these high-risk countries to come in and then self-isolates is counterproductive. And they're also afraid of the federal government's efforts towards preventing COVID-19. What's your take on that?
You see, when a government is bereft of idea,
I think
that is when you see them copying,
Mr. Menga,
you know, what is
this question is actually to Mr. Menga, to beg your pardon.
Such directives. What the Labour Congress is saying is this, that if people are given the choice of for them to quarantine themselves, many people may not abide by that law. So what I think what the Labour is saying is that the federal government should make some means of making these people quarantined, not for them to decide these things on their own. Their position, to me, is a bit more rational than what the PDP is saying. Because the fears of a Labour Congress, which anybody else in Nigeria can fear that, is that if people are allowed to do these things by themselves, many people will breach it. That is the fears of a Labour Congress. But I think with the closure of airports and the stoppage of issuance of visa and the ban of Nigerians not traveling to the countries that are deeply involved in the stuff, I think it is enough. So for the PDP to be saying all sorts of things, I think their position is not rational.
Mr. Adeyemi, you've been accused, and that's your party, of politicizing this issue rather than joining hands to see that we scale through this and become stronger for it.
Responsible party. We are Nigerians, and that is why we are concerned about the operation of the federal government. And what we are saying is just to put them in line, that it shouldn't be a kind of copying what is being done in other countries simply because of this virus. Do you have your own initiative methods in such a way that it will not affect the economy, it will not affect so much even the people that are not really concerned? And I've just said it now. As the federal government come out to tell us the statistics of how many cases that we have in this country, for them to justify over 1.6 billion that is being expended on it. And if we continue to ask questions, we know Nigerians, we know who they, we know this federal government and how they say they are fighting corruption. We know that some people will be making money out of this simply because, fine, prevention is good. We only hope that the energy they are exerting on it now will be exerted on other vices in this country, so that kidnapping.
I'm afraid that I'm just being told that we have more updates on the pandemic, COVID-19. I'd like to thank our guests, Mr. Diron Adeyemi and also Mr. Richard Menga. Thank you so much for your thoughts. As we take you to the Minister of Health, Dr. Sage Hanire, on COVID-19 in Nigeria, a briefing taking place live in Abuja.